Welcome to Immigration USA with Katia. Today, we will talk about all the immigration news of the week and how these news are affecting the livelihood of thousands and thousands of immigrants in the United States. The most important news of this week is definitely the decision of the Supreme Court that allows for the immediate cancellation of parole for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. So, what does this mean? Um, the Biden administration provided during their term for the ability to foreigners from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to come to the United States with a permit to stay for 2 years. That procedure was called parole. Parole is when you allow someone to enter the United States with a permit. So almost 500,000 people arrived in the United States from these countries with permission to stay for 2 years and the ability to ask for an employment authorization. Uh, while being here, then there was a change of administration to the Trump administration. And as soon as President Trump came into power, he ordered the Secretary of Homeland Security to end the parole process. The Secretary of Homeland Security sent a notification saying, I want to cancel parole. Parole is canceled, notwithstanding the fact that we told you that it was going to be 2 years. We just want to cancel it now. That happened on March 25. And on March 27, the victims of this decision filed a lawsuit in federal court. That the judge who reviewed this lawsuit decided to pause the decision to end parole because the judge considered that the process of deciding whether the cancellation was legal or not was going to take some time. And in the meantime, these people were going to be really hurt if they couldn't continue working and if they would have to return to countries where we all know the situation is very dire. So the judge said, we're going to pause this cancellation of parole until we decide if the cancellation was legal or not. So then the decision was appealed to the First Circuit Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals said, no, we think the decision of the district judge is correct. So while we decide if this whole thing was done correctly, just wait until we won't cancel anything. Well, the government went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did not decide if the cancellation was done right or wrong, did not decide whether the cancellation was legal or not. The Supreme Court today, what they said is, while the case is still on appeal, we are going to let the government continue with the original order. And if they find someone who was here on parole, as of today, the person is no longer on parole. And if ICE finds them, then they will be able to put them in deportation proceedings or deport them. In the meantime, the lawsuit keeps going. And the lawsuit is right now at the First Circuit Court of Appeals, the main lawsuit, the one that says the way in which Secretary Noem canceled parole is not constitutional because it did not follow the procedures that are required. And so the decision today, it's horrible in the sense that it says, yes, as of today, these people who were here on parole are no longer on parole and their employment authorizations are no longer valid. But is the decision final? No, it's not final. It's not final because we still have to wait for the decision of the main appeal that it's on the First Circuit Court of Appeals. And regardless of what happens with that decision, we're still going to have to wait until the decision goes all the way to the Supreme Court again. And the Supreme Court will have to decide if they're going to review it or not. And if they decide to review it, then they will decide finally if the way in which parole was canceled was legal or not. So there is a long way to go. The decision is super sad, right? Because the government, it doesn't really get hurt by not being able to do what they want. But 500,000 people today have lost an employment authorization, the opportunity to keep working. Thousands and thousands of employers have lost employees today. And that is a shame. That is a shame in a country that needs employees, needs working hands. So that is very sad. So what happens now? Well, if you were here on parole and today you are undocumented, well, you have to evaluate what you want to do. If you are an educated person, you may have options in other countries. Many people will say, well, they have to go back to their country. Yeah, that's very easy to say, but it's very hard to do, especially when you come from countries like Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, Nicaragua, which are countries that are in a dire situation. There are communist countries where the life of people are in danger. So it's easy to say, go back to your country, but it's not easy to do. And of course, many people don't care, but there are a lot of people who do care. Now, if you are the ones who can try to move away, go for it, because the situation in this country is horrible. But if you are the group of people who don't have the opportunity to even consider going anywhere because there's nowhere to go, then realize that you're undocumented, but nobody's coming to pick you up because they don't have the manpower to do that. So the only way that you will be deported is if ICE gets a hold of you. And ICE will get a hold of you if you get in trouble with the police, if you do something that is dishonest, or if you have really bad luck and they go looking for somebody else and they find you. So what happens if ICE gets a hold of you? Well, at that moment, you have to remember your rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to say, I'm not signing any document. I am not going to do voluntary departure. And I do want to see a judge. If you have more than 2 years in this country, you can say all those things without any problem because those are your rights. Now, if you have less than 2 years in the United States, then we are in trouble. Because if you are less than 2 years in the United States, the government can remove you without giving you the opportunity to see a judge. And so those are the situations where people are detained by ICE and they are not allowed to be released on bond. And after a few days, they are removed to their home countries. So look for a plan B. And what is a plan B? Plan B is when I put myself in the worst case scenario and then I try to figure out what am I going to do. So I know it's not what you want to hear, but if you are in a situation where you know that if ICE gets a hold of you, you will be deported, then have money ready so that you can arrive at your home country's airport and take another plane to another country, or have a plan of what is that you're going to do if the worst happens. This is a really sad time in American history because it's the first time that we see that the Supreme Court it's not really looking at the spirit of the law or the language of the law. They are just giving supreme power to the president, and that's not what the people who founded this country wanted. The founders wanted a country where Congress and the courts and the president will check on each other so nobody would abuse their power. But that's not what is happening right now. And we have to continue working in this country, trying to make the best of it, notwithstanding the circumstances. So that is what's going on with parole. We still have to wait and see if the Department of Immigration is going to say something. The Department of Homeland Security has provided a statement saying that they are super delighted and happy that the Supreme Court has decided for them against 500,000 illegals. And that is very wrong. That it's a big lie because none of these 500,000 people who came on parole were ever illegals. They were on status the whole time. So just so you know. Now, there are other news on this week. Yes. The first one is that the Department of State which is the department that works on all the embassies outside the United States, has decided to to put a pause in the issuance of student visas, exchange visas, researcher visas, and they're not going to issue any of these visas for now. They haven't said when they're going to start doing it again, but they've just said we are not going to issue any of these visas until we work on standardizing how is that we're going to review these cases. They also have notified anybody who wants to apply for a visa outside the United States that their social media channels will be scrutinized. And if you don't have social media channels, it'll be used against you. So if you have social media channels, they're going to check on everything that you've posted on it. But if you don't have social media channels and you are not over 70 years old, they're going to take that as suspicious. Why is that you don't have social media? So beware of that. Beware. And if you plan on applying for any type of visa outside the United States, make sure you check your own social media channels. The next news is that the fight between Harvard University and the government is full on. And so far, Harvard is winning this fight, so far. But the government, it's set to fight with the university. The government ordered the Department of State to strip Harvard from the ability to receive foreign students to their university. And the university filed a lawsuit against the government saying, you can't do that when we haven't done anything wrong. You are doing this because we didn't want to obey you. And that's retaliation, that's revenge. And that's not a good reason to take our license to receive foreign students. Well, that is in a lawsuit in federal court. And they ask also the judge to allow them to stop the government from issuing that decision so that they can continue receiving students. And the judge in federal court decided for Harvard and said, well, we decide if this cancellation of your license to receive student visas, to provide student visas and to receive foreign students is legal or not, we're gonna allow you to continue doing with what you've been doing so far. Now, Harvard is winning in the lawsuit, but do you think any foreign student is going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to come to a university where they don't even know if they're going to be able to graduate? I think Harvard is being hurt, and the whole country is being hurt, because a lot of people who were wanting to come to the United States to study do not longer want to come, which means a lot of huge brains are not coming anymore to the United States, and that hurts the United States. So we'll see what's going to happen. On another news, this week also, 5 undocumented immigrants were charged with not registering for the registration that the government has announced. So the government announced a couple months ago that immigrants who were undocumented in the United States needed to register. Basically, come tell me what's your name, your number, your address, and let me know when is that you're leaving the United States, self-deport. So we are 15 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, and more than 50,000 people have registered. So very, very, very few people have registered. So the government's threat is that if you don't register, then they can charge you with up to a $5,000 fine and with criminal charges for not registering. And those criminal charges are misdemeanor charges, but yet criminal charges. So 5 people during this past week, 5 people were charged with not registering. And all those cases were dismissed by the judge because the government was not able to prove that the decision of not register was intentional by the immigrants. So I don't think these criminal charges are going to fly anywhere, because the truth is immigrants are obedient and they would love to register. However, they can not do it if the government is asking a question they cannot answer. When are you leaving? They're not leaving. They have nowhere to go. So that happened this week, and I think it's the correct decision by the judge, because the government has to prove that the decision not to register was intentional from the immigrants. So that's good news for us. ICE continue doing arrests in all the United States. The Department of Homeland Security, the secretary, has told ICE officials that they need to deport at least 3,000 people per day. And obviously, they already tried looking into the list of criminals, and there are not enough criminal immigrants to deport. So right now they're going after regular, normal people who are working and trying really hard in the United States. And that's a shame. That's a shame on this country. Then in another news, Romania, the country of Romania, has been removed from the list of ESTA countries. And what are ESTA countries? Those are the countries that do not need special tourist visas to come to the United States. Normally, European countries and Canada are countries where people from those countries do not need to ask for a tourist visa. They can just notify in a website that they're coming to the United States, and as long as they are citizens of those countries, they're allowed to enter the United States for 90 days for tourism purposes. In the last 2 weeks, the Supreme Court has issued decisions that basically have stripped more than 800,000 people from their employment authorizations. The Supreme Court is the Supreme Court, and when they make a decision, it is what it is. However, how is the country going to react to the loss of 1 million employees, almost 1 million employees? That is going to affect the economy of the United States, and maybe that's what has to happen. So we realize the importance of the immigrant workforce in the United States. The last news that I want to talk to you guys about today is the one that deals with all the arrests that ICE is making to people who are going to their immigration court hearings. So if you are here and you are in immigration court proceedings and you go to your court hearing, please fight if the government wants to terminate or dismiss your court proceedings, because it will not be good. If you have been here for less than 2 years in the United States and you go to your court hearing and the trial attorney asks the judge to terminate those proceedings, to dismiss them, you have to explain to the judge that the judge should not dismiss those proceedings, that you want to continue with your asylum case, because otherwise the judge will terminate your case, and then ICE will be waiting for you outside the door to detain you and deport you. And if you've been here less than 2 years, you will have no chance to any defense. So if you're going to court, please hire a lawyer. Do not go without a lawyer. Well, those have been the news for the week. As you can see, most of the news are horrible, but most of them are not really what they look like. So, like we said before, the Supreme Court has allowed the government to continue with the cancellation, but the decision is not final. We still have a way to go. The Supreme Court has ended Venezuelan TPS, and we still have the people with TPS from 2021 who still have a few more months. And people with TPS and people who entered with parole need to go talk to immigration lawyers to see if they have any other opportunities, if there is any ways that they can change their status. So in any situation, in any of these situations, in any of the bad news, if you are in the United States undocumented, please know that you still have rights and that you still have the chance to see an immigration judge if you've been here for more than 2 years. Well, let me see. I have a question here from Alan that says, do people on legal green card status have a risk to be deported for minor offenses, non-violent, non-drug offenses? It depends. It depends. For example, petty theft. If a person commits one petty theft and it's a legal permanent residence, they are still okay. But if they commit two, it doesn't matter if it's in a span of 30 years or 40 years or 1 year or 2 years. The moment they commit two petty theft offenses, they are so deportable. So minor offenses, it depends. Domestic violence makes a legal permanent resident deportable. Any type of drug offense, possession of marijuana makes a legal permanent resident deportable. So when a legal permanent resident has any type of arrest, citation, or criminal conviction, they should always consult with an immigration lawyer, because a U.S. citizen may think, oh, this is nothing, but in the immigration law, it's a big problem. So let me see. How long is it taking to receive a CDJ embassy appointment date once transfer? A year, between a year and 2. Will you be able to still get a license in Texas under DACA? No. Why English this time? Because this is my channel in English. I have a channel in Spanish called Inmigrando con Katia, and I have a channel in English. It's called Immigration USA with Katia. So in Spanish, I have my show every day at 8:30 in the morning. In English, I try to do a live once a week, just because I don't have more time, but I also wanted to do something in English. There are rumors that Trump may eliminate the waiver 601A. Yes, there are rumors. I don't know if they are serious or not, but it's very sad. If that would happen, it would hurt a lot of people. So if you, right now, if you have the chance to apply for a U visa, for a waiver, do it. If you can do a visa petition, do it. Do not wait. There's nothing to wait. If you want to see me in Spanish, you have to go to Inmigrando con Katia. That's the name of my handle in Spanish. I have DACA. I want to apply for advanced parole. Go ahead, do it. Don't wait. We don't know what's going to happen to DACA, but if you have the opportunity to do it now. How to get my FOIA? Call the FOIA Center, 702-737-7717, and they will help you get the right one, because most people do FOIAs and they don't even know what they're doing. Can someone be deported if they've been living in the United States for 20 years, pay taxes, and have no record? Yes. If the person is undocumented, just for being undocumented, they can be deported. Violeta says, follow you on both counts, Katita. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. I know this English channel is very new, but I know there's the need. So what can people do to support immigrant rights? Well, right now, the best help would be to support pro-immigrant organizations that provide services to the immigrant community. There are a lot of organizations that do a lot of advocacy, and they are mostly politics driven. You know, they are either Democrats or Republicans or whatever. That's very nice, and I know it's necessary, but where we are lacking the most, it's on the organizations that provide day-to-day help to the immigrants directly. So if you can help those organizations, please do it, because we're struggling receiving funding, and our job is directly related to filling out forms for undocumented immigrants who want to apply for employment authorizations or for green cards. or providing meals, food, clothing for immigrants who are struggling because they can find jobs and stuff like that. So, the spouse of American citizen, they sent me a list asking for a lot of shots. How far or close am I? I don't know. I don't know what stage are you in. But can a cancellation of removal be fought? You don't fight for cancellation of removal. It's true that you're in deportation proceedings, and it's true that you apply for cancellation in front of a judge. But you submit your case with telling the judge that you have all the requirements. But at the end of the day, it's the discretion of the judge to find that you really can show extreme and unusual hardship to your qualifying relative, to your spouse, parent, or son or daughter who is a U.S. citizen and who will suffer extremely, but also unusually if you are deported. So it's really, really hard to win a cancellation of removal case, and even harder to win an appeal. Most cases are denied and appealed, and it's really, really, really hard to win one of those cases. Thank you to everybody who are new followers today. I truly appreciate your support. I hope to see you next week, and I wish that this episode was interesting and that you learned something, and most importantly, that I was able to give you a true picture of our reality as immigrants in the United States, and to give you a little bit of peace, because not everything is what it sounds. I give you my heart. Thank you for your support.